Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to session 3 of Human Resource Management course. I'm your instructor, Dr. Shikha in Khera from Delhi Technological University. Students, in past 2 sessions, we have been discussing about various aspects including introduction to human resource management, personnel management, its evolution, various functions and activities of human resource management, and what are the benefits of having an HR department in the organization, how various roles of HR from personal and administrative role to a strategic partner has evolved, various models of human resource management, etc. So now in today's session, I shall be starting off with the first function of HR, that is human resource planning, which is also commonly called as manpower planning. What is planning? Planning is nothing but scheduling the activities in advance. So similarly, the HR department in the organization also needs to have some insight on how they are planning their activities, how many number of positions they require to carry out organization functions, and with those positions, what should be the reporting relationships, how to analyze each and every task, element of job, etc. How to determine the need of human resources in the organization at different levels. These are some questions which human resource planning chapter shall be answering. So this is first and foremost function of HR department. After establishment, they have to plan for the number of manpower and the quality of manpower required in the organization. Let us begin the discussion with the help of some textual content. I would like to first highlight to you that these are the major areas or sub-functions of human resource management. Before the beginning of all chapters, I shall be introducing you where we are. So the first part of human resource function is identification and selection of competent employees. Within this, the major or the first step is to have human resource planning. In this session, we shall be concentrating on this concept of human resource planning under human resource management process. So what is the terminology human resource planning as per the definition? It says that the process by which an organization ensures that it has right number and kind of people at the right place at the right time, capable of doing the things or completing the task effectively and efficiently, so that the organization achieves its goal. Here, the critical points are right number, right kind, right place, and right time. These are basically the functions of human resource planning. So it translates the organizational objectives and plans into the number of workers needed to meet those objectives. What are organizational objectives? They are nothing but the mission of the organization, which is based on the vision of the organization. And this mission is transformed into who all would be doing that task so that the objectives are achieved. What is the need of human resource planning? The future personnel needs are clubbed with current needs in the organization. There are scenarios like coping up with the change, which includes voluntary quits. Now, what is a voluntary quit? Voluntary quit is the resignation that an employee tenders to the organization. Due to his personal reasons, he may resign, and thus what is created? It creates a vacancy. It creates a vacant job. Some discharges, that is removal from the duty. Then there can be personal happenings like marriage in the life of an individual, some promotions taking place, some seasonal and cyclic fluctuations, high rise in standard of living. All these things cater to what? They cater to creation of a vacancy in the organization. Now, when vacancy is created, that means there is need to hire, need to fill that gap. Other parameters could be creating highly talented people. So that can be in the organization we have lot of number of people, but their skill does not match to the required skill. So creation of highly talented people is solicited. Like L&T company, there is an example that L&T company has 70% of MBAs and engineer employees. So they have requirement of highly talented people. Human resource planning is also required for protection of weaker sections, like plan for quota-like categories as per the government norms. Now, this is to uplift the other societal members at par with the remaining society in terms of growth. Then comes international strategies. Like few airways have 30% of pilots as expats. So when expatriates come in, that means the locals are not given jobs. This also has to be seen that does the HRP of an organization includes international employees? If so, then what is the percentage for that? Then comes resistance to change and move. So many employees, they resist to the change of what organizations are doing. They are of the opinion that human resource policies which are currently catering are not up to the mark and there need to be some changes. So when some resistance to changes and future moves take place, then also vacancies or need for human resource planning is created. Foundation of personal functions. So this is what we call it as human resource planning is the first function of personal functions or human resource functions. So it is called as foundation for personal functions. And in today's time, increasing investments in human resources prompts the organization to have human resource planning. What is the importance of HRP? Can you guess, students? Let us see. So each organization needs personnel with necessary skills, knowledge, experience and aptitude. At this stage, it is required to find out, say if this is an organization chart, at every level or at which level, what are the skills, knowledge required by each position holder. So these are different position holders. So this is the first importance. Need for replacement of personnel, replacing old, retired and disabled personnels. Human resource planning is required. The HR department has to anticipate that how many people are going to retire or are getting old, and because of which we may have vacancies tomorrow or in near future. Meet the manpower shortage due to labor turnover. So employees also leave due to resignation whenever they feel that they have better job opportunities or they have some personal concerns. Thus, in order to meet the need of manpower who has left the job in between, we need human resource planning department to work promptly. Meet the needs of expansion downsizing programs. So if we are expanding, say, how do we expand? If we are opening up a new plant somewhere, I am talking about the factory. So we are expanding, so we need more manpower. So meeting the needs of this manpower, we need to have a good HRP. Downsizing is, for example, if we are reducing the number of employees because we are shutting down certain strategic business units. So thus the manpower planning is to be catered. Then cater to future personal needs, avoid surplus and deficiency of the labor. So 75% of organizations are overstaffed and redeployment of staff to other unit is required. So deficiency of labor is when we need more people, we have less. Surplus is when we have more, we need less. In both the cases, HRP is required. Then nature of present workforce in relation with changing environment. So it helps to cope up with changes in competitive forces, markets, technology, products, and government regulations. Based on government regulations, say for example, government adds on some more quota or categories, or government deletes either of those or merges something, we have to change our HRP policies. If their technology and products are changing, we may have to change our HRP based on hiring for specific technology. Similarly, because of the market pressures, we may have to bring in change in the kind of human resource planning or the human resources that we are hiring. For example, there was a shift in demand from ERP to internet programming. So these were the technological changes which increased internet programmers at Wipro, Infosys, companies, etc. So here you can see that because of change in demand, the change in the category of programmer also changed. ITI retained its existing workforce in new electronic telephone system. Other uses of human resource planning is quantify job for producing product and services. So we have to quantify the job. We have to quantify the people and position required. Determine future staff mix. How many at lower level, how many at middle level, and how many at senior level. Assess staffing levels to avoid unnecessary cost in spending in human resource planning and hiring. Reduce delays in procuring staff. This also has to be seen. HRP should be a continuous process so that there is no delay in procuring the needed staff. Prevent shortage and excess of staff and comply with legal requirements. Factors affecting human resource planning. So type and strategy of organization is one of the first factors which affects the human resource planning. Example, acquisition is the strategy or merger is the strategy. Would have a layoff as strategy because for job duplication. Thus, human resource planning has to rearrange the existing employees. Then second is organizational growth cycles and planning. So whether the organization is at embryonic growth, matured growth, or decline phase. So this is how the life cycle of organization is also. It's a normal bell curve like any other phenomena. So this is at embryonic stage, this is a mature stage, this is a declining stage. Based on that, the HRP also changes. Third is the environmental uncertainties. So we understand that we live in a very volatile environment. Under this volatile environment, contingencies may occur. So the expansion, for example, the expansion of aviation industry, there has been an interim shortage of technical personnel such as pilots. And by 2030, it's going to be at a very boom stage, the aviation industry. So that means we need similar number of technical persons and the ground staff or other expertise with respect to the aviation industry. Thus, there is a need to open up relevant training centers or schools to cater to these skills. Then comes type and quality of forecasting information. So the type of and quality of forecasting information that the organization acquires also results in human resource planning decisions. Nature of jobs being filled and offloading of the work. If offloading is to be done, we need more number of people. And nature of job means whether it is technical, operational, or leadership. HRP is affected by all these factors. So the points to consider in human resource planning process include decision on the time span for HRP process. Though it is a continuous process, but what time we should have for one cycle of HRP. Implementation of HRP process to be very seriously taken, because if a wrong selection at this stage, selection in terms of, I want to highlight is the positions that can give cost to the can be costly to the organization if we wrongly identify the positions in the organization. HRP process should be compatible with the organization's policies and objectives. So there has to be a parity between various practices and the process. Also, the process should be planned in a manner that it is feasible and realistic, and it should be an integral part of corporate plan. This is a sample sheet, students, so that you understand the staff forecasting form. So the sample sheet includes category of staff, staff member and movements, and number of staffs to be provided. On the left hand side, staff members and their movements, where they have gone and how vacancy has created. This we discussed in the beginning of session. So number of staff excluding known resignations. So we know certain resignations, but we may not know certain resignations. So excluding that, number of staff is 75. Here, expected retirement, transfer and promotions during the year. So 3 phenomena which regularly take place in organization. We have 8 people leaving that. Less expected transfers in promotions and new appointments already made. So 3 people will be joining in, 8 will be leaving. So this makes it 5. 5 as a deficiency or a vacancy. Number of staff required on 1st January next year would be 80 because of the new beginning, maybe some positions are created due to certain other works. So this is 75 plus 5 makes it 80. Less present staff, that is 75. So the deficiency is 5, which we have already calculated. Expected staff losses due to normal wastage of existing staff. So 15 we expect that we may lose. So 15 is also created. Expected losses of staff to be recruited in the period. So we expect that we will add on 5 people during this period, which is 5 here, and total staff to be provided during the period is here 5 plus 5 plus 15 plus 5. So that makes it 30. So 30 is the number that we have to hire for the current period. Here remarks include age groups under 25, between 25-34, 45 and above. So this is the demographic of the staff, which one should know. Here we can see that less staff with higher age, only 10, and more staff with younger generation. So that means experienced people are less. This also we can infer out of it. Increase in number to be substantiated by the OM report, that is estimated by age groups. Under 25, 12, 25 to 34, 2, and 35 to 44, 1. Short service staff turnover at 20% of 25 events is 2 plus 3 plus 4 above. That means 5 to be recruited by 1st February, others to be programmed later. So this is how the human resource planning forecasting is done or identification is done. Let us have an example from estimation of internal supply of word processing job. So here the vacancy is word processing, and we have to find out the estimation of internal supply of word processors. How many people are internally available to do this job? Source of inflow from outside is transfers in, promotion in. So from different departments and different divisions or different locations, number of people getting transferred are 12 and promotions 10. Total inflow is 22. Current personnel level are 250 operators. Sources of outflow include resignation by 13 people, discharge of 2 people, demotions of 4 people, retirement of 10, promotions of 13 people. So 42 is the source of outflow. So how do we need the current need? We have 250 total minus 42 who are leaving plus 22 which are coming in. So we have 230 processors at present internal supply. and 250 minus 230 equals to 20. So this is the deficiency of manpower that we have to work upon and hire. Human resource planning process. Let us further move on to determination of quantity of personnel. So let us, students, please focus here the term quantity. We are now trying to find out the number. As in the previous example also, we tried to find out the number of deficiencies which are there with a particular job. So we see the organizational objectives. Based on that, we forecast the HR needs. Forecast the HR needs means number of people and quality of people. And we forecast the supply also based on what is the social scenario, how many people or training schools are there or unemployed people are there, or what is the number of total graduates every year coming out with that skill. Then with the help of HR programming and implementation, we come to some conclusion that either in the organization we have one decision which is called as we have surplus people, or in the organization we have the other, that is we have shortage of people. Surplus people, that means we have more number of people than required, and shortage, we have less number of people than required. So for surplus, if this is the scenario 1, we have more people, what actions we take as managers HR? We restrict hiring. We do not hire more people because we already have more. We go for layoff. We tell few people to stay away for some time. This is a temporary phase. They may be recalled when the financial position increases or some more projects come in for the organization. VRS, voluntary retirement schemes, wherein the organization gives a benefit or an opportunity to the existing staff that you can retire voluntarily, and we shall be giving you some amount in lump sum which will be somewhere equivalent to the amount which you will be earning in next remaining years, that is 10, 15 or 20 years of their job. By this, it is a win-win situation for both employee and employer, as employee gets a lump sum amount which he can tomorrow put in a fixed deposit and earn the interest of deposit as their earnings, as their salary, and here the employer is free from giving the regular salary and having a maintenance burden of the employee because of surplus employees in the organization. Also, one of the actions that the organization can take is reduced hours. By reduced hour means that if it is an hourly job, you can reduce the hours of the employees so that they are restricted and every employee is getting the work, but maybe not for full day but for half day, and the surplus is being managed. Now if the scenario 2 takes place and there is shortage of people, then what actions the organization takes? Organization goes for recruitment and selection. So this is the next session. After this session, I shall be dealing in session 4 about recruitment and followed by selection. So this is a manpower acquisition form of an infocom, wherein you can see that preparation of requisition, approval of the requisition for manpower, internal sourcing, database, we get the number of people or quality of people available with us. This is the available staff or manpower. External sources, we can externally recruit from placement agencies and campus recruitment. Through advertisement, we can ask for walk-ins and web-based. By the 3 resources, eventually we go for a selection process and maybe some other process to acquire the manpower. This is just an example how organizations do. There is another example of manpower planning from a hospital management. Now in this case, manpower planning is extremely important for hospital effective functioning. This is a screenshot of the calculator which gives an estimate of how many staff should be employed in paramedical, administrative and support staff categories. So here there are 3 categories, as you can see, students. And with the help of this sheet, we can identify how many paramedical, how many administrative and how many support staff are needed. So first is we have facilities like ICU, ICCU, neonatal, super deluxe room, single room, general ward, and number of beds. We feed the data here. Then total number of beds we get as a figure. Number of operation theatres, daycare beds, casualty, labor room, OPD, clinic that we have infrastructure in the organization. Again, we feed the data and we get the total of beds here also by filling all these room categories. And in the end, we select the type of hospital if there is any specialization, and we calculate the total staff. By calculating this total staff, we are in a position to find out how many different category of individuals we require based on the infrastructure that we have, based on the number of beds we have, and based on the number of facilities we have. Okay, let's now focus on the first part of human resource planning, that is human resource demand forecasting. Again, I focus on that we started off by identifying the quantity of the people. So the process of estimating future quantity and quality of manpower required for an organization. Here, what primarily we consider when we think of identifying or forecasting the human resource for the organization, we have to see the internal factors and the external factors. Under the external factors, we have to see the political and social scenarios, and under the internal factor, we have to see what kind of skill requirement is there from the employee's perspective. Both the factors are very important in determining or forecasting the kind and quality of human resources that we require in organization. So external factors include the competition, laws, regulations, economic climate, changes in technology, and social factors. Social factors, for example, that what kind of jobs are more prevalent in the country. Economic climate, are we an emerging economy or we are developed economy? What kind of salary structure can we give or do we give or is expected from us? Changes in technology, that our human resource that we are going to hire, are they upgraded with the latest technological know-how about the machinery we have? Then what is the competition and what kind of manpower the competition is hiring? Laws and regulations pertaining to various social security laws, wage codes, or maybe some other pertaining codes which are there for the people or the manpower. Then comes internal factors, that is budget constraints. How much money do we have to give money or salary to the employees or maintenance of the employees? Production levels, at what level are we producing that? Then new products and services, are we launching new products and services? Because of this, we need to hire more manpower. If we are not launching, we may not need more manpower. Organization structure and employee separations. If there are more separations, we need more people. If there are less separations, we need less people. So HR demand forecast is dependent upon these factors. You as an HR manager have to analyze these factors independently and then come to a conclusion that what kind of forecasting you project for the manpower. So when we talk about forecasting, we have to understand certain methods of forecasting. So let us study these methods of forecasting. First is the management judgment. Under this technique of management judgment, what happens? The manager, top manager and the middle manager, they sit together and they identify the need and requirement of manpower in the organization. So it has two approaches. It has top-down approach and bottom-up approach. Under the top-down approach, the top management talks about the expansion plans, opening of new plant, and then tells to the manager down that they need to have more manpower for all these activities. Under the bottom-up approach, the manager who's getting the work done tells the shortage of manpower because he is unable to get the work completed within the given stipulated time. So he reports that to the top management that we are facing trouble because of lack of manpower in the organization. So in both ways, it is purely the subjective judgment of the management to identify and decide on how many people are required, at what levels are required, and what should be their qualification and skills when we are hiring them. The next technique is work study method. As you can see here, we have a calculative method to identify the number of people required for a particular job. In the work study method, the work is measured. Important point, standard time for doing the standard work is calculated. So we identify the standard time also. So for example, the planned output for next year is 25 units. Say it can be anything, say 25 units of pens that a company is making. This is the planned output. So this is the measurement. Standard hours per unit. So in order to make one pen, how much hours are required? It is calculated as 4 hours. Planned hours required for the year. So it will be simple calculation, 25,000 into 4, that is 10,000 hours will be the planned hours required for the next year. Further, now that we know the hours, that is the standard time, we also have some statistical data which says productive hours per worker per year. So if one individual is working, after allowing normal overtime, absenteeism and idle time, so which is the time wasters, which definitely are bound to happen, they are inevitable, 2,000 hours come out to be the annual hour for one individual to work for 1 year. Number of workers required, now how do we calculate? We calculate it by the number of hours we have to work and number of hours one person can work. Number of, I repeat, this is the number of hours we need to work to get 25,000 units of pens manufactured. And 2,000 is one person working hours. So by doing this calculation, we get 50 as the number of workers required to complete this job. So this is called as work study method, by which we calculate the number of workers to do a particular job. Then comes the third method, is ratio trend analysis. Now in this, future human resource requirement is made on the basis of time series data. Time series data means that what has been done in past, that gives us the time series data. So this technique involves studying past ratios. What kind of ratios? Total output over number of workers, total sales volume over number of sales persons. I repeat, total output that has come up over number of workers. So for example, if the total output was 20,000 units and number of workers who did that were 20. So what we get? This as the number of the ratio between the total output and the number of workers. So the ratio is total sales volume over number of sales persons as well. For example, illustration is production level in 1999 and 2000 was 1 lakh unit and number of workers were 100. So the ratio between 1 lakh and 100 is, that is 100 is to 1 is to 1000. So the number of supervisors in 1999 and 2000 were 10. Ratio of 10 is to 100 is equal to 1 is to 10. So estimated production in 2001 is 1 lakh 20 units. So from 1 lakh units, we have now increased it to 1 lakh 20 units. And what we have with us, we have two ratios with us. One ratio, worker by production, and the supervisor ratio. So number of workers required in 2000-2001 will be this multiplied by the ratio. So 1,20,000 into 1 divided by 1000, that was worker to production ratio, which comes out to be 120. So these are the number of workers required for the next year. And number of supervisors required for next year will be again supervisors into the ratio. So the number of workers required into the ratio, that is 1 by 10. So this is 12. This ratio 1 by 10 came up from the previous year's supervisors and the workers. So this is how we calculate with the help of ratio trends. Now let's divide this term. We are doing two things here. We are finding the trend and we are finding the trend of the ratio in the past years. So here we have trend of ratio in the previous year. These two are the trends of ratios and we have applied this trend of ratio to the current year. So we have got the data requirement for the current year. Then comes Delphi technique. Now Delphi technique is one of the judgmental techniques for forecasting. Here, the experts are involved to identify how many people would be required to work in organization. The organizations, they send their data, requisitions, requirements to various experts. Experts, they analyze themselves and then they return the report. Once the reports are returned, the organizational managers or the concerned persons, they analyze the reports and they try to find out a consensus. But once it is not done, they return the reports and each other's report to other members also, so that they are of a position to find some solution to it. This process is reoccurring until the experts reach to a common conclusion on how many number of staff or people are required at what level. This exchange of information between the management and the experts keeps taking place. But broadly, the Delphi technique is the technique to seek information from the experts in the area. So, as I just mentioned, after viewing the results, each member receives the copy of results, and after viewing the results, members are also again asked to review their estimates, and the initial results typically trigger new estimates or cause changes in the original positions. Then comes the next, that is Markov analysis. So, there is a hypothetical example of Markov analysis for a retail company. This is a method to identify the actual number of employees and the transition percentage of the employees. Transition percentage, how many will leave, and actual number of employees, how many will remain. So let us see the example that the transition is taking place from 2002 to 2003. And in 2002, there were 1440 sales associates. These 1440 sales associates, it is expected that these 220% will leave, will transit during this year, and 74% sales associates will transit this year, and 6% will be promoted as departmental managers. So if we calculate this figure, it comes out to be 86 and 74% comes out to be 1066. So that means how many? 20 are exiting. 20% are exiting means 288 sales associates are exiting this year during this transition. It will be demoted to sales associate, 2%, that is 6 people. 72% will remain the departmental managers, and 10% will be becoming the section managers, that is getting the promotion. So it is 29. Then section managers, which were 96, out of which 8% will be demoted, that is as department managers. 66%, that is 63, will remain as section managers, and 11% will be promoted as assistant store managers. Assistant store managers, which were 36, out of which 83% will remain assistant store managers, and 11% will increase or move as store managers, will get a promotion. Store managers, which were 12, so 90% will be retained as store managers, and 10%, that is 1, will be exiting. So at every stage, the number of people exiting is mentioned here, and you can see that if we do a sum total of this figure, it comes out to be 351. So we get to know how many are the actual number of employees currently, 1072, and how many number of employees are exiting. With this exit, we get a picture of how many to be recruited by the organization, at what levels also that can be identified by the figures. Then another technique called as human resource information system. This human resource information system also enables the organization to identify how many number of people are required. Now, what is human resource information system? Every organization has a database where they keep the basic demographics, that is the name, age, gender, experience, qualification of employees. Along with that, some specialized knowledge of the projects that the employee has done, some specific qualification that the employee has, some experience within the organization that the employee has, some experience of job rotation that the employee has undergone. All this information is kept in human resource information system, so that at any given point in time, if a vacancy comes and there is an urgency, the employee from this database can be identified quickly and can be deputed to that place where he is required for urgent assignments. So human resource information system plays a vital role in filling the gap in vacancies and allowing the organization to continue the work without disturbing the scenario, even in the situations where workers or the staff is not available. Moving further, what are the advantages of human resource information system? It saves time, it gives accurate information relating to human resources, and it acts as a decision support system for the organization. Decision support system because here the organization members can decide on whom to depute at which place and gives accurate information on who has the capability to take up a role. Say for example, if sudden resignation comes from manager HR, so that means the department of HR is disturbed at this stage. So we have to identify someone from the human resource HRIS database who can be deputed at this position for some time until a new joinee or new assigned person is identified. Next comes in human resource planning process, determination of quality of personnels. So we had talked about the quantity of persons, that is number of people to be deputed at a place with the help of human resource forecasting. Let us see how we identify the quality of people to be required. So the one tool that organization utilizes is called as job analysis. Now, what is job analysis? Job analysis is nothing but doing a dissection of the job to understand what roles to be done, what tasks to be done, what time to be involved in doing that task, then what skill is required to do that task, and what motion and dexterity is required to do that task, what mental abilities, what physical abilities are required to do that task. Job analysis is divided into two factors. One is called as job description and the other is called as job specification. Now, what is job description and specification? I shall be discussing that in brief with you. Job description means that what are the job characteristics that a person has to perform. That describes the job. You have to have X amount of experience, you need to have Y qualification, you need to know how to carry out this task. This is job description. Job specification is the kind of characteristics we require with the individual. So, individual curriculum vitae talks about the job specifications. Job analysis information hierarchy is there, which says that each one of us, we have a career. Tomorrow you will also have a career in a specific occupation. And this occupation belongs to a job family where different jobs which come under the same occupation are characterized as a job family. Then this job family has an element which is a single job. This single job has a single position. That single position has a duty, that is number of tasks to be done. Each task can be a distinct work activity and smallest level unit which can be divided into an element. So for example, you have a career as an academician, you have occupation as teaching. Different jobs in teaching, you can have elementary teaching, you can be elementary teacher, you can be a university professor, you can be a middle school teacher, etc. So different jobs. One job is you are university professor, position is that you are assistant professor, duty is that you have to teach, you have to evaluate, you have to do research, guidance, you have to do admin activities, etc. And each one will become a specific task and every task will have multiple elements to it. So this is how job analysis information hierarchy is done, which for every job all this is calculated. So what are the steps in job analysis? Collection of organization structure information. What does it mean? It means that how many hierarchical levels are there in the organization, and with each hierarchical level, what are the number of people and quality of people required. Selection of representative position to be analyzed. Collection of job analysis data. After job analysis data, for every job, if this is one job, for every job will be described and job specification will be identified. The characteristics of collection of data, that is, who will collect? On the job employees, supervisors, consultants, trade job analysts. So we can hire people from outside, and inside employees also can collect the data. But what is to be collected? Physical and mental activity involved in the job, each task essential to achieve overall result, and skill and education factor needed for a job. So for example, if you want to become a sports teacher, so for a sports teacher, what are the physical parameters required? Or you want to become a pilot, what are the physical parameters required? What are the mental parameters required? Essential tasks for these jobs, and skill and knowledge on education. Say for example, for sports teacher, you need to do a B.Ed, you need to do an MBA, M.Ed, or maybe some physical training skills you have acquired, all these. And for pilot, you may have to undergo certain license papers, etc. So these are the skill and education factors needed for the job. Now, how to calculate? You can calculate through checklist method. You can make a diary, make a list of things and do a checklist that, okay, these things are present in this individual. Interview method, observation, participation, technical conference, diary, you can maintain a diary, quantitative techniques, etc. So with all these, you can collect the data on the job to be done. Now, with respect to job, what are the areas in which information has to be gathered? What should be the title of the job? What can be the alternate title? Which job work has to be performed? What all equipments and tools and materials are required for the job? How to make reports and records for the job? What is the relation of this job with the other jobs? What experience and education is required to carry out this job? What physical, mental, visual efforts are required? What are going to be the responsibilities and roles of people and duties of people who do this job? Who will be the supervisor for this job and whom the person will supervise? That means who will be the subordinate and who will be the superior? And what are the hazards, discomfort and safety requirements for a particular job? Whole of this information has to be collected. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the job analysis is divided into two categories, job description and job specification. Basically, it has to obtain all pertinent job facts. So, job description is a proper definition and design of work, a statement which contains job title, location, job summary, duties, responsibilities, forms, reports and material equipment required, working conditions, hazard safety and supervision given and received. While job specification is the statement of human qualification necessary to do the jobs, what qualification, education, experience, skill, knowledge, communication skill, physical requirement like height, weight, age is required, personality requirement like appearance, judgment, initiative is required. So based on these two parameters of job description and specification, job analysis is done appropriately. Now what you see in the newspaper ads, you must be seeing newspaper advertisements for job vacancies. These are the things converted into job vacancies. And these are the things which are told to you when you join the job, the work to be done. And they have a parity with each other. Now, there are few job analysis methods with which we can do job description and job specification. So the first is the observation method. So while a person is carrying out a job, by observing, job description and job specification can be identified by understanding and seeing the physical work which is being done by observing. Second method of job analysis is individual interview method. So by interviewing the individuals who are already carrying out these jobs, we can identify the description of the job and specification of the job, which can later on be modified based on the requirements of job or any changes in the job to be done. Then comes group interview method. So we can have a group interview of collection of people who are together doing these jobs. They can give their inputs with respect to job specifications and job description. They can tell that what are the challenges they are facing in carrying out the job and how the modification in job description to be done. Accordingly, if there is any modification done in job description, the job specification, that is the person specification, will also be changed. Then comes structured questionnaire method. Now, what is a structured questionnaire? Where we have questions with the specific answers, and even if they are open-ended questions, they have high reliability and connected with the concerned subject. So with the help of these structured questionnaires, which we can float to the people who are working, we can get an insight on what challenges they face and what do they think that can be changed in job description or added in job description, and the same goes with what changes can be done with respect to job specifications. Then comes technical conference method. In technical conference method, we can send the individuals to various discussion forums where discussions on job specification and job description of particular jobs can be done. Brainstorming by the experts can be done, and during the brainstorming, the outcome can be in the form of a new job description and specification for that particular job. So what are the purpose or uses of job evaluation? It helps the organization to have effective manpower planning, helps organization to tomorrow think of how many people to be recruited in selection. Job evaluation, wage and salary administration. What is the salary to be decided for each individual? Because this is dependent on job analysis, that is job specification. Based on the qualification of the person, the salary is decided. And job description, what work he is doing. If the work is a little uncommon, hazardous, or some changes are required, then job description helps the organization to decide upon the wage and salary. Job re-engineering also is a decision to be taken by the organization member. This decision is done on the basis of job description and specification and the collected data. Now, this data helps in identifying if there is any need for training and development of employees and performance appraisal. Also, it helps to identify that are we lacking in some kind of health and safety measures? We need to add on those health and safety measures, which we can get through individual interview method and group interview method. So what is HR supply? We have talked a lot about HR forecasting. Let us demand and supply of human resources. Let us see that. HR supply is the existing employees that can be categorized as skill inventories and managerial inventories. So under skill inventory, we have personal skills, special qualification, job history, capabilities, special preferences, etc. And work history, promotion potential, career goals, etc. can be the management inventory with respect to that individual. For whom we have personal data, we can have a management inventory for that person. How do we identify the existing human resources? Internal sources of supplies, which helps us to identify. We find out the inflows and outflows, that is transfer, promotion, separation, resignation and retirement. These two are inflows, rest three are the outflows. This is one way to find out how many are present. Turnover ratio, this is number of separations per year over average employees per year into 100. Then condition of work also, that is leaves or absence. If leave and absence is higher, we can expect less number of internal supply. Then productivity level and job movements, job rotations and cross-functional utilization. One person working in HR transferred to marketing, one person working in marketing transferred to supply chain management, etc. So job rotations or cross-functional utilization also helps identifying the internal sources of supply. External sources of supply is new blood, new experiences and replenishment of the lost personnel. So these are the new recruitees in the organization which are external sources. So HR supply forecast is the process of estimating the future quantity and quality of manpower available internally, externally to the organization. This is very important. We need to know how many will be available to us. Supply analysis talks about existing human resources, internal sources from which we will get, and external sources from where we will get. So this is very important to understand. Existing human resource, internal source from where we can get the new employee, external source from where we can get the new employee. Whole of these three help us to identify the supply of human resource forecast. Existing human resource, where do we get students? You have to tell me quickly. It is with the help of human resource information system. This is a kind of human resource information system sheet from where you can get information and get the data of supply. Internal supply can also be taken from turnover rate, how many people have left, to absenteeism, how many people remain absent, productivity level, that is input and output, what is the level of productivity, whether we are highly efficient or not, and movement of people amongst different jobs. External supply can be identified with the help of ratios like yield ratio. For example, if we give an advertisement in the newspaper from which 2000 applications are received, out of which 200 are the potential people. So what we do? Out of 200 potential people, we call them for interview and 40 attend. So this is the yield ratio. Out of 40, only 30 were offered jobs. So this is the yield ratio. Out of 30, only 20 accepted the offer. So this is the yield ratio. So overall yield ratio is that 2000 applications received and only 20 people joined. So 100:1. So for every 100 people who apply, only one person joins. So this is the external supply which we can identify with the yield ratio and find out how many people can join the organization in given time. So HR programming is all about balancing demand and supply. We have to fill the vacancies with right employees at the right time. HR plan implementation, so we have to see that we are able to recruit, select, train, retain, retention and downsizing of the employees well. At the end, we have to control and evaluate our budgets, targets and standards, and we have to see the responsibilities for implementation and control of these budgets and standards and reports for monitoring the HR plans. Organization objectives have to be met, that is downsizing, expansion, acquisition, merger, sellout. All these decisions are dependent on HR forecast, and that is demand and supply. So you should be careful about demand and supply of the individuals. So students, here we have tried to identify the various parameters of manpower planning with respect to human resource supply identification, human resource demand identification, job analysis, etc. I hope you have understood these concepts, and in case you want to have highlight or in case you wish to have in-depth understanding of these concepts, this is the bibliography I have referred to. You can look into the books and get more knowledge about the concept of human resource planning. With this, I conclude the session and I thank you all for listening to this session 3.
Hello and welcome to this piece of literary snippet. We usually know William Shakespeare as the most revered figure in the history of English literature. But we often tend to forget that he has also been one of the most hated figures in literature. And here I'm not talking only about those boys and girls who have to memorize long sections from Macbeth or King Lear or Julius Caesar before they can go and sit for their school or college exams. But I'm also talking about people who are themselves quite famous authors. Tolstoy, for instance, considered the writings of Shakespeare to be, and I quote, crude, immoral, vulgar, and senseless. George Bernard Shaw absolutely loathed Shakespeare, as he did Homer. But perhaps no other criticism about Shakespeare is more damaging than the one which says that Shakespeare is a marvelous storyteller, provided someone has told him the story earlier. Now, this piece of criticism is particularly damaging because it is true. None of Shakespeare's plays contain any original story whatsoever. They are all written using pre-existing materials, pre-existing stories. Now, does that diminish the stature of Shakespeare as a dramatist? Well, I'll leave that for you to decide. See you in the next episode of Literary Snippets.